Hello, Third District. It's Robin Ware, and as promised, I am putting together a quick training on using Zoom webinar. So, as you can see, we're already inside of the dashboard of Zoom. Over on the left, you'll see profile, meetings, and webinars. So, I have selected webinars, and then you move over to the right and hit schedule a webinar. And so, this is going to open up and give us the option to set up our webinar. So I'll just call this test webinar. Then this next box allows us to enter a description. So I'll just type this in there. And then the date, time, the length of the webinar, the time zone. If it's a recurring webinar, if registration is required, select that. If you want to require a passcode, select that. And then for your video, do you want your host for their video to come on automatically, as well as for your panelists? Remember that Zoom webinar, only the host and the panelists are seen on screen. So I always turn those off to allow the host as well as the panelists to decide when they're ready to come on screen. Always make sure your audio is selected for both so that anyone calling in on telephone can hear, and then of course those on computer can hear. And then your webinar options, if you want to allow Q&A, if you want to enable a practice session, you can read through all of those, webinar on demand, all of that, automatically record webinar. And then if you want any alternative host, you would put in their email information right there so that once this webinar is scheduled, they will receive an invitation to present on the webinar. So I've made the webinar, I've scheduled the webinar. And of course, as I was sharing in our training the other night, here's where you can add the webinar to your Google Calendar, Outlook Calendar, or Yahoo Calendar. And I love, love, love those features. Then the webinar side is a little bit different than the meeting side. It does give you the option to personalize some emails. So let's make sure we go ahead and do that. So as you can see for invitations, it says no panelists have been invited. If you decide after you set up your webinar that you want to invite a panelist, you just hit edit, enter the person's name. I'll just type in my name, and then I'll type in my email address and hit save. And as you can see, the box is checked for send invitation to all newly added panelists immediately. So I am going to now get an email saying that I've been invited to be a panelist to this webinar. All right. And then invite attendees. It says that this webinar can hold up to 500 attendees. There is the actual registration link, or you can do a formal invitation. So that's the invitation you're probably more used to seeing. You can copy that and put it in your email and send it out, or you can send it to yourself and then you can send it to other people. Approvals, automatically approve, meaning anyone that signs up for the webinar will automatically be approved. Close registration after event date, allow attendees to join from multiple devices, and then show your social share buttons on registration page. If you want to change any of those defaults, you can click edit and go right in and do that. So as you saw in me hitting edit, it brought up the option to uncheck if registration is required. It's still required, but instead of automatically approving anyone, I could set it for manually approve. So that's really the only thing that you might need to change inside of there. And then, of course, send an email to host when someone registers. Depending on how large your webinar is going to be, you could get a whole lot of emails. So think about that before you decide to check that box. Then other options, close registration after event date, restrict number of registrants. You check that, and then you can tell it how many people you want to be in the webinar. Alrighty, and then that's pixel information. You're probably not going to need that. And then questions. This is where you tell Zoom what registration information you want to collect. So, Zoom by default collects first name and email address. So it says first name and email address required. So you can then go down the list and choose what other items you want Zoom to collect when the person registers. You also have the option to make that required. So if you want to know, let's say, a person's job title, you select that, but then when you select under required, they will not be able to complete their registration process without giving you their job title. And then if you need to collect any other data, you can add questions and comments. All right. And then there you go. You hit custom questions, and that's where you can create whatever questions you want them to have to, either have to or optional to complete. So as you see, the type is short answer, single answer, multiple answers, if it's required, and then what the question is. So really, really simple. Now, the other thing I want to show is click on email settings. Now, Zoom meetings does not give you this option. So this is a little bit different, maybe new to you. In the webinar aspect, Zoom will send out reminder emails. So on the meeting side, it definitely sends out a confirmation email to registrants upon registration. But on the webinar side, it will let you send a reminder email to attendees and panelists. It will also allow you to send up a follow-up email to attendees that attended the webinar, as well as it will allow you to send a follow-up email to those that were absent. So as you see, by default, it says no, but just hit edit, and then you can tell it, I want you to send an email 1 hour before the registration starts. And so it automatically fills out what that is going to look like. And then in this box is where you can type any custom information. You also can have it send out the email 1 day before the webinar, as well as 1 week before. So really great, great features if you are hosting a webinar. So that's really it as it pertains to Zoom webinar. On the recording side, you click that and you will get a list of all the recordings that have been done on Zoom in your Zoom account. So local recordings, those are recordings that are on your desktop. And of course, cloud recordings, those have been saved to the cloud. Just real quick, for settings, you want to make sure that your waiting room is enabled so that when people join the webinar, they will be in the waiting room before you go live. Of course, these are more options for the meeting side. So go through these and you can decide if you need to use any of those. And then one quick thing I wanted to share over here under admin is to click on account management, and there the reports that I was sharing with you that you can download and see who has registered for your webinar. So just click on the webinar option, and then it's asking you, do you want a registration report, attendee report, performance report, which performance report, this is where it displays a list of registrants and their registration details, as well as, let's see, their Q&A, poll report, and survey. And then let's go back to webinar. And I just wanted to show you this one. The performance report will show you the engagement statistic of your attendee. So this is where I was telling you, if somebody logs on and they log off 20 minutes in, Zoom is going to tell you that they were only on for 20 minutes. So make sure that when you are downloading your registration report that you check the performance report as well. So that should be it. Let's click on webinar settings. Oh, this is really a great feature as well. You can upload a custom banner on your webinar registration page. So you upload it by clicking the blue button that says upload. It gives you the dimensions of what that banner size should be, which is 1280 by 1280. You can upload your logo. And then if you want to have a theme, I don't really ever change out the theme. All right. So, and then these are defaults or previews, I should say, for different emails that you can set up. So, pretty simple, pretty self explanatory. So, I hope that helped you as you prepare to plan your webinar. God bless you.